A doctor, or son, was often also a priest, capable of both examining a patient and performing rituals to drive out the malevolent forces believed to be causing the illness. Let's talk about their medical library. The most famous of these are the Ebers papyrus and the Edwin Smith papyrus. These aren't just dusty old scrolls, they're comprehensive medical textbooks. The Ebers papyrus, dating back to around 1550 BC, is a massive document over 20 meters long. It contains over 700 magical formulas and remedies for everything from crocodile bites to psychiatric conditions like depression. It details treatments for intestinal diseases, eye problems, and skin conditions. For example, to treat blindness, they suggested mashing up a pig's eye, mixing it with red ochre and honey, and pouring it into the patient's ear. Yes, you heard that right, the ear. Their understanding of anatomy wasn't always perfect, but their dedication to documenting knowledge was extraordinary. Then there's the Edwin Smith papyrus. This one is a game changer. And like the Ebers papyrus, it's almost entirely free of magic and focuses on a systematic, scientific approach to trauma surgery. It presents 48 cases of injury, starting from the head and working down the body. Each case is described in incredible detail: the examination, the diagnosis, and the prognosis. The doctor would classify a case as an ailment I will treat, an ailment I will contend with, or an ailment not to be treated. This was the world's first known form of medical triage, acknowledging that some injuries were simply beyond their ability to heal. It shows a level of rational, observational medicine that was thousands of years ahead of its time. This papyrus even contains the earliest known descriptions of the brain, the membranes covering the brain and cerebrospinal fluid. They recognized that an injury to the brain could affect other parts of the body, a connection that wouldn't be fully understood for centuries. So, what about surgery? The evidence is astounding. Archaeologists have found specialized surgical tools made of bronze, including knives, forceps, and probes, remarkably similar to what a surgeon might use today. The Edwin Smith papyrus describes procedures like stitching wounds, setting broken bones with splints made of bark and linen, and even draining abscesses. But perhaps most impressive is the evidence of brain surgery, or trepanation. Skulls have been discovered with holes drilled into them, showing signs of bone healing around the edges. This means the patients actually survived these incredibly delicate operations. Why did they do it? It was likely to relieve pressure on the brain from head injuries, or perhaps to release evil spirits they believed were causing migraines or seizures. Imagine undergoing that procedure with only a basic sedative like opium or mandrake root. The skill and bravery of both the surgeon and the patient are hard to fathom. Dentistry was also a major concern for the Egyptians, largely due to their diet. Their bread was full of sand and grit from the grinding stones, which wore down their teeth, leading to abscesses and severe pain. We've found mummies with evidence of dental work, including filled cavities and even bridges made of gold wire binding a healthy tooth to a replacement. Remember that ground mouse paste? While many of their remedies were based on a like cures-like principle, others were surprisingly effective. For instance, they used honey as an antiseptic to dress wounds. We now know that honey has natural antibacterial properties. They used willow bark for pain, which contains salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. They also prescribe eating liver to cure night blindness, and we now know that liver is a rich source of vitamin A, which is essential for vision. Of course, not everything was so scientific. Magic was woven into the very fabric of their medical system. A doctor would often recite incantations while applying a poultice or administering a remedy. Amulets were worn to ward off sickness and evil spirits. The Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection and healing, was a common motif. For the Egyptians, a physical cure was useless if the magical cause of the illness wasn't also addressed. They didn't see a conflict between science and magic. They were two sides of the same coin, both essential for restoring balance and health. They believed gods like Thoth, the god of wisdom, and Sekhmet, the goddess of healing and pestilence, had direct influence over a person's well-being. A patient might receive a prescription for herbal remedy and an amulet to be worn during recovery. The Egyptians also had a strong focus on public health and hygiene. They bathed regularly and used cosmetics like kohl eyeliner, which wasn't just for beauty. The lead-based minerals in kohl had antibacterial properties that helped protect against eye infections, a common problem in the dusty, sunny climate of the Nile Valley. Priests, in particular, maintained a high level of cleanliness, shaving their entire bodies to prevent lice and pests. They understood that cleanliness was important, even if they didn't know about germs. Their knowledge of anatomy came largely from their practice of mummification. The process of embalming required them to remove internal organs like the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines. This gave them a hands-on, though somewhat limited, understanding of human anatomy. Interestingly, they usually left the heart in place, as they believed it was the seat of intelligence and emotion, essential for judgment in the afterlife. The brain, on the other hand, was considered useless stuffing. They would typically scramble it with a long hook inserted through the nose and drain it out. This view of the heart and brain is the complete opposite of our understanding today, but it shows they were actively exploring the inner workings of the human body. So, from setting bones and performing brain surgery to prescribing effective herbal remedies and creating the world's first medical textbooks, the ancient Egyptians were true pioneers of medicine. While some of their practices, like the mouse paste, seem absurd to us now, their systematic approach, their detailed documentation, and their willingness to combine practical treatment with spiritual belief created a surprisingly effective system of healing that lasted for thousands of years. They laid a foundation of medical knowledge that was passed on to the Greeks and Romans and ultimately shaped the course of Western medicine. The next time you take an aspirin, remember the ancient Egyptian healer who first prescribed willow bark for a headache thousands of years ago. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments which ancient practice surprised you the most. See you in the next video.